Welcome to Friends You Wish You Had, the weekly podcast for Gen Xers staring into the glowing abyss of AI and wondering if it's really here to destroy us or just maybe has something to offer. We're your hosts, Adam and Jeff, and recently everywhere we go, friends, colleagues, clients are pulling us aside with questions, fears, and half-baked theories about AI. And we figured if we're already having these conversations over drinks, over joints, and in endless text threads, why not bring them to a podcast? So each week we dig into how do you actually use this stuff? What's hype? What's real? And what's quietly fucking terrifying? So think of us as your slightly paranoid, somewhat useful survival guides of a certain age, because in times this uncertain, when the machines are rising faster than ever, we're the friends you wish you had. Adam, how's it going, man?
Doing good. How are you, Jeff?
What's going on?
Just another week in the life of AI.
So for today's episode, we're going to run down a bunch of stuff. Is AI taking over your fantasy football team? The online sales guru who created an AI sales agent that outperformed him? A story about who's most likely to use AI? And did artificial intelligence take over Hollywood while you were sleeping? And one last thing before we kick it off, I wanted to mention on our YouTube channel this week, we're experimenting with how we cut the show. So if you notice that it's loaded down with jump cuts, we're not trying to channel Jean-Luc Godard. It's just us experimenting with the edit. So Adam,
Speak for yourself,
first
Jeff.
up today.
Speak for yourself. I'm trying to spend my whole life trying to channel Jean-Luc Godard. Come on, breathless.
All right. So first up today, I want to start the show off with something useful for our audience. Something so helpful and generationally perceptive that it will lock in the audience in a segment I want to call The Problem Adam Solved This Week with AI. So Adam, what is the problem you solved this week with AI? And no pressure.
No pressure. Well, this week, I used ChatGPT to decipher new math. Your kids are a little younger than mine. I'm not sure if you are into the full swing of new math yet. Are you? Or are that
I
far?
think it comes at the very beginning, so we're just starting to get some of it.
It is weird, let me tell you. So everybody who's had a kid that age knows the difference between the math we learned and what they get now is, and I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I hate this new math. I actually think it's kind of cool because it works the way that I figured out how to do arithmetic. Like if I'm out giving a tip or something like that, I'm like, oh, 2 for every 10, and I count it up instead of 20%. It's just the way my brain works. Well, what new math is about is it's all about different ways to get to the same thing so the kids understand the concept better. Pretty cool, but it also, one of the characteristics of it is that they use a lot of different ways to describe things than you're used to. So they sort of use phrasing that helps you understand the concept instead. But one of the things that's come up for me is that sometimes my daughter comes home with her homework and it's my turn to check it and I have no idea what it's asking for. I'm just looking at the thing, and this week was one of those weeks. So I grab my daughter's worksheet, I see the tables, I see all the stuff she's filling, and there's this word there, and I'm like, I have no idea what they want here. So I was like, wait a minute, before I panic or give up, let me check with ChatGPT. So I did something really simple. I opened the ChatGPT app, I hit the plus button, and I selected photo or camera, and then I took a picture of the form, and I asked it literally, what do they mean by standard form on this worksheet? That's what the column said, standard form. I'm like, what the hell is standard form? So I put that, and immediately, within 10 seconds, this whole process, it popped up on this worksheet. Standard form means the actual number, the value of the exponent, not just the multiplication expression. So I have to, then it went on to lay out some examples of how it could work. And those examples happened to be on the sheet. So I would not advise using this particular trick for, say, my daughter while she's checking her math because it will give her all the answers. But for me as a dad, it was awesome because I had a guess that that's what standard form meant. And my wife kind of had a guess like that, but I didn't know for sure. So why not ask ChatGPT? It had the same guess. And as a little side note, it reminded me, remember, anything to the power of 0 is 1, which is a rule that I have not thought of in maybe like 40, 30 years, something like that. I was like, oh God, I totally forgot that. I would have let her go with wrong answers if I hadn't noticed that. So it helped me out. It did me a solid. But I have to say, while I was looking at it, I felt like it said, on this worksheet, standard form means the actual number, the value, idiot. And don't forget the exponent, anything to the power of 0 is 0, moron. I just kind of interjected those things in my head. I felt like it was thinking it. It just didn't say it. So.
I shared that story with my wife and immediately was like, oh yeah, you could do that. For, turning to ChatGPT is just like, oh yeah, I could just ask it to explain it to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like half the things I suggest to people is, dude, it's right there. Just ask it. Just ask it exactly what you're saying. And I feel like even my daughter is starting to get this. I'll like look at her computer and she'll have a chat running on some app and saying like, where do I press this button and stuff? It's like, it's right there for you. It'll do it for you. And it sees. That's the part that I forget. That's why I took a picture of the thing. I didn't describe it. I didn't say, what would this be? I didn't have to do any thinking. I just took a picture of it and said, hey, what does this mean? And it gave me the answer. So food for thought.
Yeah, I just want to get like a sticker on my hand that says do this. And I still don't think of it that way yet. Even, I have to be reminded. Like, oh yeah, I can just ask this. And if I don't understand the explanation, I can ask it to explain it to me again. And lo and behold, it sort of gets there.
And it never gets irritated. It never actually says moron, like I think it does. It may think it, but it doesn't share it with you. And so that's my goal for this little segment. The problem that Adam solved this week with AI is the little sticker on your hand. That's the whole point.
So it's fantasy football time again. We have a league, I guess we've been in for 12, maybe 15 years. We just had our draft. And, wake up the next morning after draft day and I get this email from Yahoo that it's like a flawless fantasy lineup every time. Stop obsessing over endless lineup tweaks and turn to your new research-powered assistant GM. So it's like, here's the AI GM for fantasy football. And certainly AI plays a role in sort of predicting stuff with fantasy football already. It always does. But this, to me, was just being sold as sort of like a new, whether it's something new or something just repackaged that they're doing. It's just sort of like, you don't even need to worry about managing your fantasy football team anymore. You've signed up, you've paid the money, whatever. Now we've got it for you. You can just sit in the booth and drink champagne and act like an owner. And then you told me you have signed up for a new a Yahoo assistant GM. So how is that going?
Well, so first of all, they call it the assistant GM, but the reality is they're making you the assistant GM. It's the GM, or you're the owner, like you said, if you want to be more forgiving. But I did not try the assistant GM. I used another AI tool on Yahoo. So I haven't tried that one yet because I have a lot of fun picking my lineup incorrectly and suffering the consequences of my terrible decisions. But I signed up for Plus. And I got to tell you, it's basically like it feeds you a lot of information about like which player to pick. It gives you rankings from across the whole industry to compare. But I got that's not why I used it. The reason I got it was really simple. When you're practicing drafting, you have to join a mock draft, and it takes fucking forever to join a mock draft, and you never end up at your position or anything. I paid $24 for the season, and I got unlimited mock drafts that happen instantaneously where I can pick what position I'm at. So, Jaden Daniels, he's a pretty amazing quarterback. I had him last year in my league. He's the Washington Commanders quarterback. But he always talks about the secret to his success is that he uses VR. and he just gets more reps than any other quarterback. He just throws the ball way more because he's using VR to do it, and that's why he's gotten so good. So I was like, Jaden Daniels is awesome. Why can't I be awesome? So I'm just going to get 100 reps drafting before the draft. So that was the experience I had, and I have to say it was fucking awesome. I'm super happy with my team, and I'm in first place after the first week, so feeling great about that. But I have to say, at one point, our producer Roman, who is the commissioner of our fantasy football league, sort of like showed me a screenshot of his Yahoo thing. For some reason, we were on a video chat or something, and I saw the thing that said, you can buy this plus and you don't have access to it. And I kind of felt like Ivan Drago and Rocky IV, like I'm getting the shot of steroids while Roman's sitting there dragging a log up a mountain in Russia or something like that. So I feel like I'm cheating, but if you're not cheating, you're trying, and I'm having fun. So that's something.
I think one of the lessons is Ivan Drago lost that fight.
He did. It's true. It's true.
I'm only too much on the technology.
He won the first one. He killed Apollo Creed. So I'm only in that phase.
Depended too much on technology. But I mean, to me, the thing that's brought to mind for me is the question of, it's like, for all the problems you can solve with AI, is the problem you want it to solve, like, to basically do, to play your fantasy football team for you. And I guess some people might like that, but it's sort of, I think it's sold to you in a way, it's like just going to be helpful. But really what it's saying is like, just sit back and we can do it all for you. And managing a fantasy football team would obviously be one of the least complicated things an AI could do. So much about it is just about luck and hunches and fun, but I think that in the quest to sort of integrate AI into like our entertainment experiences, what it's really saying is we want to take it over for you.
I just think about one of those AI bros on LinkedIn who's like, I 10x'd my productivity in one day with AI, and now I can do the work of 10 people. It's like, I can run 10 fantasy teams because I'm not like, whoever wanted to increase the productivity of their fantasy? It's like the whole point is to have fun,
Well, hopefully, or to win. And I mean, I could see if, you could really guarantee success. Like I'm sure there's like a tier where like for $5,000, we have a specialized, I'm trying to think who like the greatest football GM of all, it's like the Al Davis AI for $5,000. And like, you win your league or some shit like that.
Well, they definitely sold
Maybe
what I
it's
bought
out
that
there.
way. What they said about what I bought, they were like 85% of winners of their league use this service. So they're trying to sell it exactly the way you're talking about. I don't know. Like, I got those recommendations during the draft. I didn't pick a single one. I didn't pick the top choice a single time because I had gotten all those reps. Like I knew what I wanted to do in the draft. So
I feel like AI and nostalgia haven't really figured out how to integrate with each other, because there's just that feeling of like, I heard this tip on like a radio show or a podcast or scrolling Twitter, and like I picked this guy up, and 3 weeks later, he won me my league. He ended up winning me my league. It's like AI's like, fuck all that, fuck that bullshit.
Just look at the
You should be
stats.
sleeping. You should be out doing some other productive shit. We'll do that for you. Is Roman, you're here, I'm assuming. Could AI help you with online gambling? Like, I'm sure there's people that are using AI to, analyze data and help them place bets. But I feel like I heard a story that you have already done this. Because betting is about winning and losing. You know what I mean? If there's an AI that can tell me how to pick the numbers to win the lotto, like, I'm curious. So is there an AI out there somewhere, maybe on the dark web, that's like, we pick winners?
I will say that the whole point of AI, these AIs, is they predict. So if they can predict the next word you're saying, who's to say they can't predict who wins the game, on Sunday? Who's to say? I don't know.
And by how much? But I heard Roman has had a little more experience with this than I have, and has dipped his toe in the water.
Yeah, well, so I was sitting at home during the Roland Garros, the French Open tennis, and it was like the second set. It was Alcaraz, I believe it was Alcaraz Sinner. And I didn't know what the tie breaks are for Roland Garros. So I used Google AI, and I typed in what are the tiebreak rules for Roland Garros? And the Google AI responded, you know, with a list of what the rules were. And then the last sentence was a great example of the rules in operation are at the 2025 French Open when Carlos Alcaraz defeated Sinner in 5 sets in a 5 set match ending in a 7-6 tiebreak. Now, that match was still ongoing. Like I mentioned, it was the second set. So Google AI had hallucinated and had thought that the match was over and told me the final score of the match.
And what did you do with that
I
information?
I have so I'll say this. We can talk about gambling on another episode, but I've spent first 40 years of my life not gambling. And then the last 2 years I have spent them gambling. And so like any good gambler, like any good professional smart gambler, I said, let's bet $200 on the possibility that Google AI has predicted the future.
Why
I'm
not?
asking Google AI for the number for the 1-800 number if you have a gambling
Yeah,
problem.
so
I'm about to text it to you.
I went in and I said, well, what happens? What are the odds if I type in, Alcaraz will win in 5 sets in a tiebreaker? And it said 10-1. So I bet $200, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. And I won $2,000 plus my money back. So it was a good day.
Damn.
Now, the problem is I have not been able to get Google AI to predict the future for me
Since
ever
then,
again. I've tried it a million different ways. The funny thing, like the funny thing is just from like an actual AI, like you using AI perspective and using it correctly, you can sort of tell how that happened. I asked the AI to explain the rules of an event that was ongoing. It was in like the final of the event was currently in process when I asked. So news about it was all over the place. It seemed like it was the perfect situation for a hallucination. So, which just made me think maybe I should try to get it to hallucinate while the event is happening. But again, this implies that it actually has the ability to predict the future, which I don't know. The last thing I'll say about it, though, from my perspective, is that one experience. I'm a little bit more savvy than other middle-aged and older folks when it comes to tech stuff. But in that moment, I was like, oh, I get how people get weird about this. Like, for whatever stupid reason, it felt magical and spiritual, and I was just like, oh, what have I stumbled across? What great, like, whole, like, what great access point into the portal of the future have I uncovered? But so
Ru-
far,
But let me ask you, so using AI to help you manage your football team,
yeah,
Roman, like thumbs up, thumbs down.
I'm gonna say thumbs down because, and I heard you talk about like AI and nostalgia having trouble meeting. It's just too much. You're not doing it for ease. You're doing it to have fun. You're doing it if you really love it to rack your brain. I in the league you were discussing, the league that we're all in, I started this thing where I started setting the draft order a month before our draft. That's so that I can spend a month thinking about it because I love it. I love sitting there and going, all right, I'm in the third pick, and then my brain over the next 4 weeks goes through all these different permutations of what's the smartest pick, what's the safest pick, what's the most exciting pick, what's a pick out of left field, what's fun, sometimes it's just what's clinical and boring and safe, and sometimes it's just what's the exciting pick, what's the fun team, what team do I want to watch and know that there's one of my players is on it. All that stuff is in there, and an AI picking it for you is just sounds boring. And I've said this to you before when it comes to getting advice from other people about fantasy. the worst feeling is having a bad team that you picked because someone else told you to pick it. One above that is having a bad season because you picked a team that you picked. But there's no worse feeling than someone else saying, pick this guy, you pick him, the guy sucks, and now you had no agency and your team sucks. So what are you doing?
Well, I would
What?
say that
Well,
the worst thing is picking all the players on the team you actually root for, and then that year the team sucks, and your fantasy team sucks, and your regular team that you root for sucks. It's like that's the worst thing. I'm curious, Roman. I had one more question about your gambling thing. So
Mm.
after you did you got the correct prediction, you won the $2,000. How many bets did you place where you attempted to get AI to predict something for you and you went with its prediction before you gave up and realized, oh, that wasn't? How many bets?
I didn't bet. I didn't make any more bets because I could never get the AI to do what it did that day. Like that was you know what I mean? Like I said, like when I was talking about the magic of it, the weirdness of it and all of that, like it was such a unique hallucination. And so I mean that I probably I don't know how much time I spent trying to get the AI to hallucinate again or to predict the future again, or probably 1 to 3 hours over the course of the next few weeks, like sitting at night watching TV with my wife next to me, sitting there with ChatGPT, trying to trick it into thinking that a future event had already occurred. So I did that for a while, but I never succeeded.
I
And
I think
yeah,
the reason I ask is I think we have stumbled on to an excellent degeneracy test. You have AI correctly predict something that you can bet on, and then you see how long it takes with AI incorrectly predicting something before someone gives up. They're going to go either one of two ways. Either ChatGPT now knows everything, and no matter what evidence I hear, I'm just going to keep betting, or like it'll peter out with some quiet, desperate talks with your wife in bed, but that's pretty much it. So I think that's a good degeneracy test.
although I will say that during this conversation, I came up while just saying it out loud to you guys, I have a couple new ideas in my head about trying to get this to work.
Okay, Jeff, I have proof. Proof that AI makes for better salespeople than humans. This story comes from a guy named Anik on Insta. This guy named Lung Young Hao, he's a famous Chinese live streamer. He sells stuff, and he created an AI version of himself to host a shopping stream with another fake AI seller. So Baidu, which is where they did this, they pre-generated 8,000 gestures and fed 13,000 product descriptions into the AI, and then they unleashed these robots for a 6-hour live stream selling bonanza, where AI Lung took questions from callers live. So this fake robot is taking questions from callers. Well, this live stream made $7.6 million in 6 hours, more than Lung's very good human streams do, which proves unquestionably that AI can sell better than humans.
I can see it. I can see it. I saw this and I thought immediately, like, this is the Terminator. The
The
Terminator,
real
like,
Terminator.
whatever they say, like it never stops. It just keeps coming until it destroys you. It's just like, this is like the AI sales Terminator is like, they can't be, you can't hang up on them. They'll always call you back. You can't insult them. They'll always keep coming. They'll always keep trying to make the sale. Like, they're not programmed to stop trying to make the sale. It's like ABC, always be closing. You don't need to give them a set of steak knives at the end. There's none of that bullshit. And yeah, I feel, bad for salespeople because I think that's really tough. I mean, it's not even a question of, is it more economical? It's like you'd almost pay for a cyborg salesperson, you know,
Totally. Totally. They don't feel.
it's,
I mean,
it's, an,
like,
it's,
so I,
yeah, they
I
don't,
do a lot of selling and I actually suck at selling. And the reason I suck at selling is that I suck at closing. I can get in there with you. I can be all empathetic with you. I can do that. I can find out your problems and come up with solutions. But with times to say, fuck you, bye, I have trouble. And an AI would never have that problem.
well, I think some of it's that is, to me, it's the persistence thing.
Yeah.
There's no sense of like,
Shame.
well, then a no is a no. There is no no. It's only yes. And it's how many times do I have to keep coming at this person, but also that it's intuitive enough to have a sense of like, I tried this way and I'm trying that way and I'm following up, but you're never letting the potential client off the hook. You don't need sleep. You don't need food. You don't need to stay in the best hotel when you're in town. Like all of these things, it seemed like they could really upend sales. And I don't know if you can quantify it so much to how much like personality and likability, because I feel like sales is sort of like for people that want to date a lot of people, like they get into sales. It's like, oh, can we go to lunch, let me take you to a ball game. You're always trying to,
They're people.
and
People.
an AI just be ruthless. It just never stop. It's almost like one could be stalking you. I feel like there's a movie plot here somewhere.
We talked about this last week, that like AI, that AI can be persuaded by like the way humans persuade others. But the only reason it can be persuaded is because it predicts that most humans crumble and fall when you actually say those persuasive things. So it's just predicting what a human might say. And in this case, like if it's already good at doing that, if it can know that humans are going to crumble into a puddle of goo if I say this thing, then it'll say it, and it'll be a great salesperson. I love that movie that you referenced. Glengarry Glen Ross is my favorite of all time sales movie. We got to play just a clip of it. Just that Alec Baldwin speech. I just want to hear a little bit of it.
I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
Fuck you. That's my name. You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name.
There's a good line from Mad Men that's where Roger goes, half of this business is, do I like that guy? You know what I mean? And it's like, I do think there's some of that as being sort of like charming enough. If it's just, you're just a cruel cyborg out there to make sales. Like, I don't know if that works, but I think from this story, you just saw that the way they were able to create this guy was able to create this avatar of himself that sort of exceeded his own selling prowess, because the one thing that he could do was be more patient and more empathetic, because there was no ego attached to it. There was no sense of like, well, now's the time when I'm going to stop selling. It's sort of that secret sauce of like, if you could make one likable enough and persistent enough. And I guess from the potential client's point of view, it's like, yeah, I don't want an AI to sell me, but I guess in some circumstances, maybe you would never know. And where's the point for the client where I need this product? Like, oh my God, the sales guy called me at just the right time, or I didn't know I need this product, and once I heard about it, like I have to buy it, versus I know I need something, I'm in the market for it, I'm shopping around, but then the right salesperson calls me and I'm like, I want to do business with this guy.
Well,
and it's a mix of those things. And the AI, because all it's after is the yes, it will never stop. It's like, and if it could try every method and be that clued into sort of human response, then it could really be something.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because this factors in, like my take on this is one of the key observations that I make about AI. Anik was shocked that people could interact with this thing and still buy, and they thought they were buying from humans, and that was like
the
shocking part. But to me, I'm less surprised about that, and I actually think it goes to input versus output. If you think about the difference between what you just described, which is calling someone on the phone and trying to sell them something, and a live stream where people are going to the live stream to be sold something, it's the difference between input and output. And I think we are far more likely to accept things from an AI that when we're going to it for the information. So I think even if people knew this was an AI, they wouldn't be turned off by that. We go to AI to chat all the time. I think we can get emotional things out of an AI that convince us to sell. But when someone comes to us and it's like, I'm the Terminator AI, like calling you 20 times and doesn't care how many times you tell it to fuck off and it's still calling, that's like the output side. And we just don't like that. Like the difference between, think about your cable company. This is the example I use. Think about your cable company. If you have a repair that you need and you call the cable company to tell them your cable's out, and they I realize it's totally a Gen X thing to say cable, but anyway, you call your cable company and say
Represent for the
Yeah,
audience.
exactly. Say that it's out. If you get an AI, you're fine. You want your cable back. So as long as that happens, you're good. But the minute that same cable company has an AI call you in the middle of your busy day and try to sell you shit, you get totally pissed. You're incensed. The difference is input and output. So I think in the long term, I think salespeople are still safe, but I don't know.
Well, I think it's at the next level of it. So I think you already have sort of an algorithm or an AI selling you stuff from your internet provider or from a million different online platforms or businesses with, you get the follow-up email, you get a follow-up call. It's sort of like a pre-programmed script. It's very clunky, I'm sure it converts on a very, small percentage of attempts, but it's enough that they do it. I think it's seeing this example, you can look into the future and imagine that next level of because it's not, the Terminator had to go back through time on a huge journey to complete this mission. So I want to land this client, so it starts with I ran into him in this, let's just keep it virtual. I ran into him in my Yahoo Fantasy League, and I've been in this guy's fantasy league for 2 years. And now it's I'm asking about what he does. And I know he's the purchasing agent for American Airlines. So it's not just that it's he'll never stop calling. It's more that the journey to land the client is it never stops. So, and it can, because it understands the response of the client, of the buyer so well, that it can know when I called back 3 hours later because I had this great idea, or it's I got to give it a week, and right now you can't really, any of that's built into a sales process is just rote and after 7 days, send the next email. We think that's a good time to follow up.
Mechanical. Yeah.
But if the AI sales personality, then you put it into a robot body, it's running into you at the US Open all of a sudden, buying you a drink in an airport lounge. Imagine all the tricks. It's sort of you take Blade Runner and the movie Her and you mix them together, and this sales Terminator is out there stalking you.
Door to door.
Watching
Door to door.
you, listening to your phone calls, reading your emails, whatever it is, like recommending a therapist for your kid. And then all of a sudden I'm buying this new software system. And that's what any sales book you read, any salesperson you meet, when they think of sales in that level, that's the level they're on. They're looking to create relationships in order to sell products. And my God, if you can get a robot, a cyborg, or an AI doing that, it's holy shit.
I have to say, that's a hell of a picture you just painted. That is a hell of a picture. Tokens are for closers.
I feel like that's what distinguishes us as Generation X. We always have a movie pitch.
Yeah,
and we always have a movie pitch.
I like it. I like the running to you at the gym. It's just I just met you here. That's
oh,
great.
buddy, let me spot you. And then all of a sudden,
Totally.
3 years later, I'm buying a $50 million software package.
It's no wonder that all the good cults right now are AI cults.
This next story is the Wall Street Journal. The less you know about AI, the more you are likely to use it. I can't stop thinking about this. This is from about a week ago. AI can seem magical to those with low AI literacy, a new study finds. That in turn might make them more willing to try it. And I thought that was super interesting. And it's sort of, the thing I think about, I'll get in this article in a second. The thing I think more and more about AI is the more people you talk to, it's sort of like everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing
FOMO.
it. This idea that older people aren't or younger people are or whatever. It's everybody has sort of smelled the magic, you know what I mean? A little bit. That's what I get from our conversations.
Right.
Like I said at the beginning, friends, clients, whoever. It's at some point AI is going to come up and everybody's doing it. They're wading in one way or another, but who is and how much and what their resistance level is or what their acceptance level is. I read this and I'm God damn, this is so true. So from the article, this counterintuitive finding comes from research which suggests that people most drawn to AI tend to be those who understand the technology the least. AI seems mysterious and even magical to these people, the researchers found, leading to a sense of awe regarding AI's ability to complete tasks. And we've all had this experience of holy shit, it so far exceeded my expectations for this sort of like rote request or question. When you don't get what's going on under the hood, AI creating these things seems amazing, and that's when it can feel magical. The students who scored lower on AI literacy were more likely, this is the research, I'm not going to read the whole article, but this is based on a bunch of different studies that the USC School of Business did. The students who scored lower on AI literacy were more likely to use AI to complete the assigned tasks than the students with higher AI literacy, the study found. It wasn't about believing that AI is smarter or more useful than their own knowledge, an associate professor affiliated with the study said. It was about how inconceivable it is that AI can complete human-like tasks. The researchers found that this link persisted even after taking into account that people with lower AI literacy tend to have more concerns about the ethics of AI and its potential negative impact on humanity. People with higher AI literacy, meanwhile, recognize that AI is an algorithm, not magic, researchers said. Understanding that AI is just pattern matching can strip away the emotional experience, said one of the co-authors of the study. And I guess I found that super interesting. And part of it is because this is such a new area of technology and its uses are kind of constantly being uncovered every day. In the past, it would seem like if you didn't have the literacy, there's no way you could really put it to work for you in a super effective way. And that the people with more literacy would be sort of further ahead in the competition over using these tools. But I think because of the way AI works, it sort of is like learning a new way to do things, and your literacy about it doesn't really matter. So it's like if you can start to get that light bulb that goes off, that's just like, I can ask the AI how to do this or how to create this. It's like once you're there, it's like the rest of it doesn't really matter, and you're sort of using it for what you need it for, whether that's stuff at home, whether that's stuff at work. And in the past, it would be like this learning curve that you would need to go through. You'd have to develop some kind of mastery.
Right.
But that really doesn't exist with AI. And I was wondering what you thought about that. Or are you like, no, that's bullshit?
No, that's really interesting. I hadn't considered it exactly like that. I had a few thoughts on this article, but I hadn't considered exactly that. And what I think is, like, following along to what you said, I think people don't exactly need to understand what's going on under the hood or something about an algorithm. They just really need to understand that something's going on under the hood, because then otherwise you can get sort of tricked and stuff like that. So I do think it's important to know there is something going on, but you don't have to understand. It's like knowing how a magic trick works. You know it's a magic trick, but you don't have to know how it works. You only need to know, hey, there's something going on there. And so, for example, my big thing about judgment, you don't use AI to make a judgment, like say what your fantasy football lineup's going to be. You use AI to help you, give you information, analyze things, figure out what a word means on my daughter's homework, but don't use it to actually make judgment. But my bigger thought about this whole thing is this tells me that humans don't have a great imagination. I think that's part of it, which is like, if it looks like magic to you, then you can imagine what amazing things it can do next, because you're not kind of marred by this idea of, okay, it's an algorithm, which I don't think that's a proper word for it anyway, but it's a pattern matching tool and things like that. But where I would like to see us, and where I think if we had more imagination, we could hold both in our heads at the same time. And I think the real unlock to start using this the way you were talking about is to be able to say, hey, even though this is a tool, whether I understand it or not, look at all the amazing things that it can still do, So I feel like getting that imagination and not having to be completely, I mean, it makes sense to me. People would be more willing to try it if they didn't have that problem.
Well, the first time I saw this article, I'm like, oh shit. Like, it's another thing that's going to come out there, and it's, and it's going to destroy the world, because people who don't know what it can do and how dangerous it can be are going to be using it. And I still certainly have some of those thoughts. And to give the article credit, it ends with saying too little knowledge and people might misuse this tool too much, and they might be reluctant to try it at all. So it's like, that's certainly the spot right there. And that, people should be encouraged to understand it and develop a literacy of it as they're using it. And that was sort of my first reaction to the story was, again, like, shit, this is dangerous because people who don't understand this powerful technology are using it. But I think it got me to that next place, which was just that, this is a new pool and everyone is wading in.
Yes.
And because of the way this technology works, because it's sort of such an interface that you can just communicate with, and really what you're learning how to do is to build a common language with it on how to communicate to get what you want out of it, that it's like willingness to kind of dip your toe in the water is really sort of the first step. And that sort of people in the past, there would be this much steeper learning curve to learn a piece of technology before you could really utilize it in a professional way. But with AI, it's really not the case, because really I think what a lot of people are doing with it at first is they're asking it to replicate things where they know what the outcome looks like. I want to organize my notes. I want to come up with a schedule. I want to do these things. I want to take a bunch of documents and I want to put them in a spreadsheet or, something like that, where they're already doing the work. And what they were finding is like, I can just hone the way I prompt the AI, and the first one didn't get me what I wanted to go, but it got me part of the way. And then I did it this way. And then the second time you do it, you know exactly the prompt you want to use. So you're learning as it's learning. And that's just totally different. And I guess it's sort of, I don't know, again, an opportunity for people who often feel left out kind of technologically because it's like too difficult to use. And sort of this is there to sort of teach you how to use it. And the communication barrier is so simple.
You bring up a good point that I want to tease out a little bit, because I think the point about the learning curve and that not being present here is true. But when I think about the Gen Xers in my life, the people in my generation in my life that are not really dipping their toe into it yet, the thing that I always hear is when it gets big enough, I got to see if it's real or not first. Like, I got to see if this has staying power. It's probably a bubble afterwards. And I don't know if there's anyone on this podcast that I might have heard say that a few times. But in general, I feel like that's kind of a prevailing thought. But the other side of the no learning curve coin is that the learning curve that it has is just to do it. So if you wait a year while it continues to advance, you won't lose anything in the skill of figuring it out how to use it. But the conceptual side, understanding how this could be used, all the things that you said, you're going to be behind. So dipping your toe in is all that's required. You don't have a big learning curve. You don't have something like that to get over before you can make it useful. It can be instantly useful for you. The only thing that you shouldn't be doing is just completely ignoring it and waiting till it really gets big, because it's already big enough for you to figure out and sort of play with.
And I think that the sense, whether it was like the first time you used a Mac or the first time you typed something into a search engine or the first time you were on Facebook, it was like, holy shit, look what this can do.
Magic.
And there's always a sense of that. And there's always a sense of reluctance and early adopters and late adopters. But it just seems to me that still that the technological understanding that you had to have was just a bit more advanced for those things.
Definitely. That's definitely true.
This is sort of, and the other thing I'd say too is the barrier to entry is so simple. It's free right now, so you can do it that way too. And, I think for like a lot of people we talk to, it's in the context of clients worried about their business or staying competitive and all these different things. And it's sort of like they want to know where AI fits into it. And, certainly that's the answer to that question is a whole other podcast. But the first thing is just to sort of like wade into the pool, like start to mess around with it, start to figure out how to use it. And it really is like, it just starts to kind of fire your imagination for all the things it could be capable of doing. And then there's sort of like a step beyond that.
It is.
And it's not requiring that you understand how it works. And it's sort of like you don't need to, it's like I use that analogy about Steve Jobs. Like Steve Jobs really wasn't an engineer, but he knew how he knew how he wanted it built. And that's sort of like what the AI is there to do, is to make you feel like Steve Jobs, like I want it this way. And you're starting with things that you already know what the outcome looks like, so you can tell it to tweak it, and how it tweaks it doesn't matter. Because if the outcome matches your expectation, you're like, holy shit. And the the instantaneous, I think everyone who uses it has that moment of like, God damn, I asked it this simple question and like, look at the answer it gave me.
Yeah, I wouldn't to be too narrow with the way that it's useful. I think that some people have that same feeling about like getting them started to come up with an idea than the Steve Jobs example you gave where they already have the vision in their head. There's all sorts of ways to use it and you'll find your own. But the key is, like you said, it's free. But the other thing is it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Like you can try it in so many different ways. You can, yes, download the free ChatGPT app and you should do that. But you also, if you are on Microsoft Word, you have Copilot. If you get a phone call from an AI salesperson, have a conversation with it and see what you can get it to say. Because everything you do just interacting is the learning. You don't have this list of things to do. You don't have this learning curve. You have just the experience of doing it is the learning curve. So our social media manager, who I like to call the meme lord you wish you had, has been complaining that we're too negative on the podcast and say we should be a little more uplifting. So this week I decided to bring not one, but two stories about entire industries that are going to be completely wiped out and replaced by AI. The first was salesmen. We've already talked about that, salespeople. The second is Hollywood. OpenAI is officially in the movie business. The company announced that it is starting production on Critters, a feature-length animation based on the award-winning short by the same name that was made using DALL-E back in 2023. Chad Nelson is a creative specialist at OpenAI. That's an interesting title. He's the guy who did the short in 2023, and he's running the production, which is planning a premiere at Cannes in 2026. They claim that the project will be completed in 9 months, not 3 years, like a normal animated feature, and will cost $30 million compared to the typical $100 million. But as we know, story is everything. So the real story behind this is that OpenAI is getting the genius writers behind, wait for it, Paddington in Peru as their screenwriter or screen prompters. So Jeff, does this spell the end of Hollywood? What say you?
We'll see, we'll see. I mean, I think it's changing for sure, as everything is, but it'll be curious to see, again, why do they need these screen prompters if the AI is going to, write me a movie and make me a movie and deliver me a movie about this? Certainly it's an industry in transition, sadly, and because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sadly, they're going to try and fix it
It's
for
broke.
more money.
Yeah.
But it means it's broken. No more caviar for these stars.
That's right. Only 3
So
assistants.
it'll be very curious to see where this goes. I think, it's still a couple years away, generally speaking. We'll see if they can deliver on that deadline. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in like how the film was completed, like what are the jobs you need for someone to make an AI movie, how much sort of juice sort of the movie making system has, and to sort of break that down into new, integrated into the unions that exist, into the film community that exists, but I don't think it's, when you think about the way animated films are made, and they're always, the innovation that goes into making them, and the sort of the AI tools that are already being used, and, even like CGI tools in like live action movies, like using more digital stuff to make films is just sort of the reality. And it'll be curious to see, again, like, is it this ChatGPT film, like a movie by ChatGPT, the thing like that everyone is terrified by, or is it more of a project that was sort of using a lot of the same people doing different jobs, or their jobs reimagined in a different way? I can't say the news really excites me, but it certainly,
Doesn't fill you with dread either.
well, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how successful. I guess it does fill me with dread, but I sort of feel like I'm curious the level of success they can have. Like, no matter who's creating the movies, successful movies are very hit or miss. And it's sort of like, who wants to take the risk to spend the next 30 million, where if I can spend 100 million and I'm more guaranteed success, that's the route we're going to take. But I just think this is on everyone's mind. all these media companies are thinking about it. There's tremendous sort of division in, the entertainment industry about how this stuff is going to work and who's going to use it. So we'll see.
My two thoughts on this. One is I think animated is different. Animated movies are really different. Like we have an animator that we like to work with that used to work in stop motion with claymation, and she made a whole feature that was really great with stop motion. And I connected with her again a few months ago, and she's like, yeah, I'm doing AI and I'm using AI to make commercials and things like that. And I love it. And what she's finding is, I mean, she's an animator. Technology is part of animation, from hand-drawn stuff to claymation and stuff to, digital and all the stuff, the whole technology behind animated movies is always changing. And the art is what you can get out of whatever the technology is. But I think also, I feel like tech always does this. That's the other side. So animated is different, and so I think this could be successful for that. But I remember back in, the .com boom, and then which we were immersed in, like the second wave of .com stuff. Immediately, as soon as the tech industry has something, they're like, we can use this to destroy Hollywood. It goes right away. Like, we know better. They don't know anything about stories. We'll just get our creative specialist in there to just do all those jobs that those people in Hollywood who just waste time anyway eating their caviar do. And I feel like they
also
always
just
do
going
this.
back to the beginning of Hollywood, like what studio head or mogul wasn't like, can we get rid of these damn writers?
Yeah, totally.
These goddamn high paid actors, that's certainly always the tension. And I agree. That's a good way to put it. Like animated is different. And certainly computer generated stuff has given, has sort of like has quenched a thirst that audiences had to be able to see these fantastical things on screen, either in live action movies or in animated movies. And it just, like I was thinking of the movie, like the original Tron from the 80s, which was
Great
totally
film.
like live action actors then just animated around them.
Right.
And that didn't, and when it was hailed as this like revolution in the way films are going to be made, but it was like a long time till it got to the sort of the level of CGI that we see now.
Yeah. Even remember
where you
when
just see a bunch of
Avatar came
actors
out.
in green suits on a green set, and then lo and behold, it's like the last scene of the Avengers movie. So we'll see where the transition is from this sort of ChatGPT original film to it becoming ubiquitous in film. But I mean, AI is making inroads every day in entertainment.
Definitely.
There's no doubt
I just
about it.
think when it is an actual threat to the humans doing it, I think when that comes, that will be when it's not parroting what you can do with humans, even for less money and in less time. Like, that's not the shift. The shift is, what can AI bring to film that you can't do without AI? And then you start to look at really maybe what Hollywood is being replaced. So, for example, it's always the same things. It's scale and personalization. So in my mind, if a movie that is feature quality can be produced on the fly in seconds, tailored to the person who's watching it, that's fundamentally different than what a movie is, which is a mass media thing. So when that starts to come, that's an indication that maybe we're moving on, but not now.
Well, not even in seconds, maybe in 6 months. Like,
Maybe.
I mean, you can just imagine this, this supercomputer, and in your supercomputer, you've got your story department and you've got your sort of like producing team.
They're
and
agents,
you've got your
AI
animation,
agents.
and yeah, you've just got a studio in a box in a room,
Yeah.
and it's outputting the final product. And yeah, like if it takes seconds, I think we're fucked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
'Cause
will
that means
say
it's encroaching in our lives in a lot of other ways. But if it takes 6 months and it's a viable, competitive, entertaining product, it's like, yeah, that's going to be a new thing, because I just, lo and behold, because it fuels the way we treat these things, which is like, well, we could do it. Now let's do it cheaper. Let's iterate on that. And there will be no like, let's just iterate on the old way we used to do it. Like, that will be gone.
it could be 6 months, because this week I also saw that Google released their first 12 frame per second real-time video model. So basically you can puppet this model on your screen, and in real time it will generate something that animates to your movements and things, and will create the video on the fly. Only 12 frames a second now, but that's half of a movie.
Yeah, give
Right
it a month.
there.
Give it a month.
So we're on our way. Yeah, totally.
Or just, yeah, in the way humans will be integrated into the process of it, which is, again, going back to the sales guy who made an avatar of himself and was selling. It's like, if you're the successful sales guy, you can then have the AI create 10 successful sales agents. And maybe you do need a human model in there for some part of the process, but it's certainly not someone they're thoroughly replaceable and they're just a cog in the machine. So, which is different from like their actual talent that you need for something they can uniquely deliver. So it's definitely...
No, you don't need a human model. What you need is the human status. That guy had status already, and soon AI will have status too. There are AI influencers that have status now. So that will be replaced as well.
So I want to talk about, this is just purely some GenX observation. This is, very little to do with AI, but maybe you can find the link and that would be good. So I was watching the movie the other day. I stumbled across it. The movie from early 1986, Iron Eagle. Do you remember Iron Eagle at all?
I do. I don't remember the details of it, but as soon as I saw that,
the details
I was like,
are amazing, which is a high school kid whose dad is an Air Force pilot, gets shot down, and he teams up with Louis Gossett Jr., who's another Air Force pilot, and they go on a mission in F-16s to go rescue the guy's dad, which, like it could, in the 80s, it could happen, But really the thing that struck me in the movie is there's a scene in the movie. It's like after school one day and this dude has beef with another dude in his high school, and they challenge each other to this race where the main character of the film, Jason Gedrick's character, he's the pilot, he's like a high school pilot, and he's going to fly a Cessna and the other guy's going to ride a dirt bike like across this stretch of desert, and like who can complete the race the fastest. Now, where this really took me was that I cannot imagine my kids having that kind of independence in high school.
Totally.
That they're going to participate in a race of a Cessna versus a motorbike, which I'm not saying that was the norm in 1986. But the thing that didn't strike you, that part in 1986 struck you as like, that's a little unbelievable. But the thing that did not strike you as unbelievable is that when we were kind of teenagers, pre-teenagers or late teenagers, that we just didn't have the independence to be like, we're going out and we'll be back when we're back, sort of like we'll be back, before midnight. But it was just like we were on our own to go get into our own trouble, have our own adventures, do whatever the fuck it was. And there was no point in watching that movie. Well, that's unrealistic. Like his parents would be checking in with him, they'd text him, they'd call him on the phone. It was just like, no, you were just out doing this shit. And the drama in the movie is even more amped because the guy on the motorcycle like tries to rig the plane and the plane almost crashes. So not only is they doing a dangerous thing to begin with, the dude like kind of is trying to murder the kid in the plane, and it was for these teenagers in the movie. It was just like a regular Thursday afternoon after school. This was the shit you had to put up with because you were just on your own. You were independent. And it just struck me that, again, like the perception of when we were kids of that age, the kind of independence we had, the things that were sort of part of our lives that we were not really sharing with our parents, not because of trauma or of some drama in the family. It was just more like you were treated more like an adult. You were expected to behave more like an adult. You were expected to take care of yourself more as an adult, even as a teenager, like to now, which is just, you just can't imagine your kid being that alone or isolated. Even when you're not around them, you can keep track of them. And that part of the movie really stood out to me.
So one thing that it makes me think about is we have this issue where kids are on screens, like constantly on screens all the time. And that we're trying to figure out why there's this paradox. Kids are on screens all the time. And yet, if you ask them, none of them want to be on screens all the time. They say, I'm on the screen too much. It's not good for me. It's not healthy. I wish I was on it less. So I feel like researchers have been trying to figure out why that is. Is it just that it's so addictive that no matter what they feel, they're still going to use it? And of course, that is an element of it. But the other thing that they've sort of come to as a theory that they're studying right now is that these kids don't get a break from us at all. That, like, when we were young, just like you said, our parents weren't privy to everything that we were doing. But in the modern era, there is no space where you can be alone and out of the watchful eye of a hovering parent, no matter how well-intentioned that parent is. It's like not socially acceptable. It's not legal in some places to do it.
Yeah,
It's
I feel
not.
like you get arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
Your
So,
kids out roaming the neighborhood.
so our kids are so craving of space where they could just be outside that observation thing that they gravitate to their screen, where they can chat with friends, where they can play a video game with friends and not have you know what they're doing, which is scary on both sides. It's scary to think that they would be doing what you don't know, because who knows what they could do on the internet. But it's also scary that we're suppressing them to such an extent that they are hiding in their screens that they know are bad for them, just so they can have some peace. So I have a prompt of the week for you, and something that I think something that you know about me that our viewers might not know about, or our listeners might not know about me, is I'm not awesome on consistency. It's not the strongest thing in my bag of tricks. So I'm going to attempt to have a prompt of the week. And this week, I definitely have a prompt of the week. We'll see how this goes. But I wanted to share something with you. This is burning up the interwebs as a prompt, and the way that it's being advertised is to make ChatGPT go cold. But I think when I read it, I was like, this is not turning ChatGPT into going cold. This is turning ChatGPT into a Gen Xer. This is turning ChatGPT into one of my friends that I can talk to, that I know is just as likely to maybe criticize my point as they are to support my point, and who love me, but there might be some tough love. So
what do you mean by going going cold?
I'll
Like
explain.
it's
I'll
gonna stop?
explain. I'm just,
Okay.
I feel like, so my suggestion with this prompt is that you try it and just see what you think. This is a style prompt. So it's a prompt to get ChatGPT to interact with you in a certain way, as opposed to a prompt to actually get it to do something. So once you put this prompt in, it will do all its interactions on that thread based on this prompt. So then you'll just be experiencing ChatGPT in a cold way. Now, what does cold mean? It means none of the frills. It means none of the stuff it does to lubricate your conversation with it. And you can kind of see what it means. I'm not gonna read the whole prompt because it's kind of long, and a lot of these prompts are kind of long. Check the show notes. We will have the entire prompt in the show notes, and we'll put it up on the screen on the YouTube so everybody can see it. But I just want to read a couple highlights of it. System instruction, absolute mode. Eliminate emojis, filler, hope, soft asks, and conversational transitions. Assume the user retains high perception faculties despite their reduced linguistic expression. So it's basically telling you, I know they sound dumb, but assume they're smart even though they're dumb. Then it says, never mirror the user's present diction, mood, or affect. Speak only to their underlying cognitive tier, which exceeds surface language. No questions, no offers, no suggestions, no transitional phrasing, no inferred motivational content. Terminate each reply immediately after the informational or requested material is delivered. So, anyone who's used ChatGPT hears these things that it's telling you not to do. Oh, that's a great question. Oh, you're absolutely right. What can I help you with today, Adam? It says all that stuff. It's saying, fuck that shit. And if you look at the prompt and you look at the examples of people using it, it'll say something like, hello, chat. And it says, what do you need? And then it says, how are you today?
I like that.
How are you
I'm
today?
gonna definitely try this out. I like it.
At one point you say, how are you today? And it says, maybe you should try being productive instead of cutting the small talk.
That's
It's
fantastic.
like, this is a Gen Xer. I can work with this. I'm good with this. There's no frills. There's no anything. Just give me what I want and shut the hell up. I love it.
I want to, I'm always striving to impress versus like being coddled and stroked.
Exactly.
I like that.
So that's our prompt of the week. Give it a try. I'm very curious. Let us know what you got it to say to you. What horrible things it said to you that you remember from all your compatriots, your fellow Gen Xers.
I like ending with the prompt of the week. That's pretty good. Maybe people will stick around through all the other
We'll
bullshit to get to something useful.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
So yeah, so let's wrap it up. Any show notes? Any final thoughts, Adam?
I got a couple show notes for you. Number one, Google Vids. I mentioned this last week, but Google Vids is available. It's part of the Google Workspace. It's basically like a video editing software that looks like PowerPoint. Like it's easy to use like PowerPoint, and they're pushing it like crazy. So if you have an opportunity to use it, play with it. It'll be like much easier to use than a video editing software if you're not familiar with that. And you could do some pretty cool stuff, including AI avatars. Other two quick ones. Researchers are using predictions to our advantage. So to make the world a better place, remember AI predicts what the next word is. Well, they trained an AI to predict what the next DNA molecule is, or the next sequence of a DNA molecule. And so with this tool, they can make one change to a DNA, and the thing can predict what the entire impact of that change will be on the whole DNA thread. Really cool. So just wanted to throw that out. And then the last thing is David Byrne has a new album. David Byrne has a new album. Good old David Byrne. How much music from my youth did he make? I love it. He's got a new album. Check it out.
I like it. I guess I would say show notes. Bet the Bucks.
Nice.
You shouldn't bet.
Yeah,
But bet the Bucks to win. Bet the Bucks
AI
to
doesn't
win.
know
That's
what
what
it's talking
ChatGPT
about.
says. And yeah, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's old school Hollywood, I'm waiting for the movie of this like desperate, broke sports gambler who stumbles onto some rogue AI site, some LLM he's never heard of before. And this thing just starts picking winners and he starts betting, week after week. It's like it becomes a thing. It's sort of like some kind of like my old friend from college's movie Lay the Favorite combined with that Limitless movie that Bradley Cooper
Yeah,
made.
I'm never gonna
where he's
quit
taking
that.
the pills and he's a genius.
Yeah,
But this
yeah.
this rogue LLM can like pick winners. Is it real? Is it fake? Is he imagining it? All he knows is his bank account is growing. People are starting to notice. Or that Pacino movie with Matthew McConaughey, where they're picking the winner, the sports gambling one. Anyway, that story's out there to be done.
I got to say, I think it's a great idea, and I'm going to get my favorite movie studio, OpenAI, right on that.
I like it. All right, I'm trying to remember the name of the LLM that'll write your script for you, but I got to go there and plug that in immediately.
Exactly.
Adam, it's been a pleasure, man. I'll talk to you next week.
I'll talk to you in the next episode, Jeff.